by Match Bingo. Whilst watching Premier League games, you can win cash prizes and support your favourite causes all on one app. Purchasing a £2 card on any football fixture gives you multiple ways of winning money. It's so simple, it's so easy to download, to create your Match Bingo account and to purchase their bingo cards. Watch your card automatically populate events that happen throughout the live fixture and win cash prizes by being the first to complete your card. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link below now to get involved with one of the best games available in the footballing world. Welcome back to the Top 6 show, everybody. The final show of the Premier League season. Of course, it will be, we never stop, so we'll go. But it's the last one before the end of the Premier League. We're going to be previewing Sunday's games. We're looking ahead at some really interesting transfer rumours as well, talking a little bit of VAR, Pochettino and much more. We've got a brilliant panel for you today. We've got Giuseppe here and Dayo back in Arsenal. We've got Man Like Ram, a.k.a. Two-backer, repping Liverpool. Kate is back with us to delight us again with her dulcet tones. And here he is, not slouching for once. It's Man Like David, who has been right in the end when it comes to the Pochettino argument. And you got a lot of cookings for that because you didn't watch all the games and you've ended up being spot on. So lots to talk about on the show today. Viewers, please hit like buttons. Make sure you subscribe and make sure you've got the bell notifications turned on. This is a weird comment. Terry, where do you go when the lights go out? Oh, there's a joke in there. There is a joke in there, but I'm not going to go that far that early. But normally to bed, mate. I'm old. Do you know what I mean? I'll keep it really, really boring. I wanted to start tonight. Obviously, Man United smashed it last night. Back on track with a win over Newcastle. Hojlund scoring, putting. No, I'm messing. We're not starting with that. We've done well. Happy. We move on. I wanted to ask you about a transfer rumor actually involving Man United. Ollie Watkins. Could Man United pull it off? And is he good enough to help Man United improve? I'm going to throw it out first to Giuseppe. Answer the second question first. Is he good enough to improve Man United, in your opinion?
100%. Like, come on. He scored 19 goals this season. No penalties, right? So, or is it 20 with no penalties? Something like that. So, of course, he's good enough to improve Man United. I think it takes a lot of pressure off Hojlund as well. So, I think he's the perfect sort of option for Man United at this point in time. I think they need someone who can hit the floor running in the Premier League. I don't think they could take risks.
Yeah, I mean, what are other people's thoughts on Watkins? I remember being cooked for saying Spurs should have signed him instead of Richarlison 2 seasons ago. I don't know if it was specifically any of you guys. Definitely wasn't Kate, Dayo, or Giuseppe. They weren't on the terrace back then, but I got a lot of stick for it. Now everybody is falling over backwards for his qualities.
I think he is good enough for United, but I think with Hojlund, you've got a really good player there. And I think someone like him, he's a starter for me. I think he's that good. I think technically he's very sound. I think he's physically very dominant at times. I think you've got a real player in there. I would say Ollie Watkins, if he's going to go there, he's going to be demanding to start because he's essentially playing for a Champions League football team. He plays for a Champions League team. So for me, if you do get him, I just don't understand why you would get him. I think someone like an Arsenal maybe might do well with him because of the fact that he's very good on the ball, but also he can put the ball in the back of the net and he's someone that could be relied upon. So for me at United, I think maybe just keep a hold on Hojlund because I think he's a quality player in my opinion.
I don't see I don't see him working there, and I'll tell you my reasons. Right, my reasons why I think it's because of one, he's with Villa, who already have Champions League this next season that we're going into. That's one. Two is his age. He's 28. So if he's going to go to Manchester United, a team that is just about to start a rebuild, he's not for the next 2 seasons probably not going to make Champions League. Maybe, might make Europa next season, might build again, and then maybe the following season, maybe win a FA Cup or win a Carabao Cup or whatever. By the time he's kicking on to go to the Champions League, he's in his 30s. And at that time, in 2 years, you know how it is with the new 16, 17, 18-year-old superstar kids that are coming out of the woodworks, the Ericssons and all these, what's that kid's name? Enric, like just coming out of, South America. Before you know it, there's somebody else who's a superstar. So I think he's going to want to stay where he can get Champions League right now at this age. I think he's going to want to try to win as much as he can in the next couple of years. He'll probably want to go to another team that already has Champions League, one where they can feed him more of the ball. I'm not saying Man U cannot feed him enough of the ball now. It's just there's a whole rebuild going on at Man U with the back room, the admin, the whole hierarchy of who's running what. And then there's this whole instability of the new coach or no coach. We're not sure who it's going to be, So I think coupled, if he was young, like 21, 22, I'd say, yeah, perfect. Just go, stay. By the time you're 24, 25, in the, in your prime, you'd be Man, you'd be kicking and you'd be there leading the lines. But at this age, I don't think he'll do it.
Yeah, I don't see it. He's just signed a 5-year deal. I just don't see him going to United. And it is, I don't mean to be disrespectful because Man United are a massive club, but he's settled at Villa. They're building something. They're in Champions League. It kind of feels like a little bit of a backward step in the twilight of his career because he's that sort of, I don't know who said it, but someone said, because of his age, he's not going to go straight into playing Champions League football with Man United. So I think that's paper talk. I don't think there's any truth in that at all.
I think also you've got to mention as well the fact that Villa already have been hearing rumours about Jack Grealish coming back to Villa. If they're making moves like that, if I was Ollie Watkins, I'd be like, why would I want to move? If they're making big moves like that, stay at Villa. They might be cooking something really good over there. I'm saying.
There are very few spots in United squad where I'd go like they're pretty set. I think striker's probably that a position where I don't see the need to sign someone to come in and be a starter straight away because you bought Hojlund to be that. So why would you go and stunt Hojlund's growth and buy in someone else who's just going to sit in front of him? Doesn't make sense.
I mean, Hojlund, I do understand. Listen, I'm someone who got stock in Hojlund. I do. I think there's a very good striker in there. If he was playing in a system as good as Aston Villa's, a system as good as Arsenal's, a system as good as Liverpool's, City's, I think he would. Remember, his conversion rate this season is better than Haaland's. This is a cast iron fact. His shooting accuracy is as good as any striker in the Premier League. It's just a lack of opportunities he has created. But I do still think that Hojlund is raw, and I think what hasn't helped his development this season is he's had to be the main guy. And everybody develops at different stages of their career. And Ollie Watkins is actually a prime example. At 20, 21 years of age, top clubs in England, top clubs in Europe were not knocking on the door for him. I swear he was playing at Brentford or he was in the Championship. Exeter City. So everybody develops at different stages of their careers. Not everybody is a superstar at 18, 19 that the world wants to sign. And I do think we've got to go out and sign somebody like an Ollie Watkins. I do. Look, there is a Man United fan in me that says, but we're Man United. And there's a lot I've read in the last 24 hours that's very encouraging about the new board, the new football decision makers, and how quickly they want to hit the market this summer, that they're already talking to a lot of agents, that they're selling this idea of this rebuild. I still think that's going to be attractive to certain people. I think to certain people that's going to be attractive because if you are part of a rebuild at Man United that becomes successful, legacy-wise, that's huge. Potentially that's bigger than having one season in the Champions League with Aston Villa. And I'm not saying that they won't qualify again next year, but we've seen Everton. Who have we seen do this? Everton have done it. Newcastle have done it. Spurs have done it. The Spurs become a little bit regular. There's been a handful of teams that have qualified for the Champions League, had one season in it, and then we've never seen them in it again. Leicester. Or they haven't been in it for many, many years. Leicester, when they won the league, of course, yes. So there is the possibility that happens as well. So there is the Man United fan in me that says, of course we can get him. We're Man United. We're huge. At the same time, the realist in me understands he's 28, signed a new deal. Everything's going very, very well at Aston Villa. There are no guarantees that our rebuild is going to actually work, although I'm very, very optimistic personally. Man United have promised a lot of players rebuilds before and have never quite come to fruition. So I think it will be a difficult one. But I do believe we need an older striker or a more experienced someone. It doesn't really matter about age, just somebody that's ready to start every single game now. Because I don't quite think Rasmus is there yet. Personally, I don't know what you.
Don't you think?
But Terry, if Rasmus, if Hojlund played in a team like Arsenal, you know, if he was at Arsenal this season, he scores an easy 22, 23
30.
goals this season.
I think he scores 30 with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if Ras, like I think the major problem that you have with the rebuild is you now have that piece as a striker, somebody who actually can score the goals, but there's no. How can you only pass him the ball 3 times in 90 minutes? Like, how do you pass your striker in a dangerous area 3 times in 90 minutes? Like, what are the rest of the team doing? You know, so I think that's where the major thing is. I hear you. You might want to bring another striker who, you know, if you guys want to play 2 up front, or if you want somebody to play FA Cup or whatever it is. But I think Rasmus Hojlund is a very, like, if we had him at Arsenal this season with Havertz, if we had him and we had Havertz this season, and he was starting with all the injuries that Jesus had, I see him popping a good, I easily 22, 23, 24, 25 goals. Easily.
I think
because of the system around him. So I think if you fix that system at Man U, you already have someone that can give you the goals that you need in him. You just need to get the right pieces.
Why do you think, Ram, like obviously you seem to rate him as well. Why do you think so many Man United fans have already turned their backs? Not all, but there's a good percentage of Man United fans have already turned their back on Rasmus.
I think because maybe the price tag and the hype that came with him, and the fact that they don't take into account external factors, the fact that he joined when he was about 20, 21. He's still basically a baby when he joined the Premier League. And I think all these expectations, I think all these United fans that aren't rating him are basically saying, expecting him to score around about 20, 25 goals in his first season. Like, that is completely ridiculous to ask someone that's joined a new league and has to adjust to a different style of football, a lot quicker style of football as well, given the fact he played in Serie A last season. And I think also it's the case, it's just maybe it's the association with Erik ten Hag, the fact that Erik ten Hag brought him in, he wanted him, he got him, and he rates him very highly. Maybe that sort of things plays a part. But honestly, I think he's a very talented player. I think he's got all the fundamentals to be a top class striker. I think when you're talking about Ollie Watkins and Knight, that 28-year-old, I think it's going to be very hard to find someone that is willing to be a backup player for Rasmus Hojlund because of the fact he's only 21, 22. He's going to be around for about 8 years minimum, which is going to be a problem to find a backup for that.
Doesn't it make more sense for Hojlund to be a bit more of the backup right now while he's learning his trade? Because I know you guys are saying he in Arsenal he'd score all these goals. Maybe he would, but maybe he wouldn't. He's never scored more than 10 goals in a season. Even at Atlanta, one of the key things that people used to say about him was that he doesn't score a lot of goals. Like, everything else about his game is top draw, like hold up play, stuff like that. But to score goals, he didn't score loads. So we can assume he will score loads, but he hasn't actually proven that yet. And I do agree with the thing of the Man United system and all that. But do you think that someone like Watkins, even if the system ain't 100% there yet, will still get loads more goal output? And I think he would. And I think that's that bit of experience. Sometimes I think Hojlund sometimes needs to get himself involved in the game a bit more. And I don't want to blame it all on him because he is a young kid, and I think he will be a great player. I actually do rate him as well. But I think to say that Watkins wouldn't go to Man United for one is I don't think it's true. I don't care that Aston Villa has Champions League. Like Terry said, they'll probably be in it one season, get knocked out in the group stage, and then they won't see it again for a long time. So I think he would go there. And I think that the older striker, maybe not Watkins per se, but I think the old striker is what actually makes sense for Man United. Because if you buy a young striker, that is replacing Hojlund. If you buy a 28 to 9-year-old, that's saying, look, we've got someone here right now to take the pressure off you. You can learn your craft. If you're scoring goals every game, you're going to be in the team. It's as simple as that. You just got to now do that.
Yeah, but the team itself, the structure, like Manchester United as a team, it's easy to be a good player and just look terrible in that system. Like just look at the way they're set up. Erik ten Hag literally has made every player who I rate Rashford, but he looks terrible right now. Garnacho is young. I think people forget that Garnacho is 21.
No, he's
Oh,
not.
how old is he?
He's
20.
19.
19. Sorry,
He's in his
19.
teens, yeah.
People forget that Garnacho is 19. So I even added 2 years to his life. Boy, I'm sorry, man. Let me take it back. The boy is 19. And you know, they criticize him as though it's like, oh yeah, he has all this experience. But looking at people like Amadia, like, let's be honest, man, the system does not work for Rasmus. If that system was good, the same thing in Atalanta that you're talking about, fine, he scored 9 goals or 10 goals. But look at the Atalanta coach and look at how they play. They're not the team that feeds him the ball as well. So he was more involved in the game. That's not the Atalanta team does not score many goals. Yeah, that was the way they were set up. They play mid block, defensive block. They
share the goals around.
They share the goals just like Arsenal. Like that's what Atalanta does. It was just recently that they started having this guy, what's his name, Skamaka or whatever his name is, that is like the guy leading the lines for them right now and really scoring a lot of goals. But before, when he was there, they shared the goals around. And if you're put in a system where you're asked to do that, you do that. Now in Manchester United, they brought him and said he's going to lead the lines, but then nobody's feeding him anything. He's dropping down, holding the ball, passing the ball, running into space. And then they say, oh, his positioning is not good. I'm like, have you passed the ball to him there to know if he's going to be able to score from that angle? You haven't. So how do you know his positioning is not good? You know, so it's crazy.
So when people say his positioning isn't good, I think that's just a cop. I think having done this for so long now, what I've realized some people do is they throw something out there in the hope that people don't know the answer, so they stay quiet. So they say his positioning is bad in the box. So I've heard that in the last 2 months. So I've started watching him. He makes really good runs into the right areas. Now, sometimes the ball's played into the secondary space. So if he runs to the far post and the ball ends up being crossed to the back post, you could argue there isn't the synchronization between the wingers and him. But the reason that exists is we never know what our wingers are going to do. Are they going to cut in and shoot? Are they going to chop back? Are they going to cross it? We very rarely cross the ball early. But equally, what the system needs is somebody running into that secondary space. So Rasmus is either going to make the run into the near post or far post and take someone with him, creating space for somebody else, which, by the way, a great example of that, where it was beautiful to watch in the Premier League, was Harry Kane and Dele Alli. One would invariably get onto the ball. That isn't just on Rasmus. That's on the team and the system and the coaching. And we are a mess when it comes to that. This idea that he has terrible movement is wrong. Now, I would like to see him use more of his pace. I would like to see him run at a few more defenders. Now, he's an overly skillful. He's not going to start doing, I don't know what all the skills are called nowadays. He's not going to start rolling his studs over the boots, doing step overs and snapbacks and flips and tricks. And I don't know what it's all called because I don't really care. He's not going to do any of that because that's not him as a player. So there are elements where he's got to improve. But I do think the way some United fans have turned on him this season is very, very premature. When by the way, it's the same fans who will outright tell you that the manager's a bum, no coaching ability, doesn't develop anyone, ruins players, but at the same time, they're writing off certain individuals. That it's crazy to me. But I think we definitely need another striker in the summer. It could end up being Watkins. In terms of the manager, I want to throw the manager thing out quickly before we move on to Chelsea. All things played down the McKenna links today, but he has also said, and I want to make sure I quote him correctly on this, that Manchester United could be looking at a young manager. I don't quite know what that means in terms of, is it young for a manager or, someone who's in their 40s, someone who's in their 30s? Where do you think Man United are going to go, David, with the managerial situation? Will they keep Ten Hag? Or do you think there's someone on the market, someone who's available, that's the right individual to start this rebuild in the summer?
If they keep Ten Hag, I'd be very shocked, just because new owners don't like keeping old managers. But I haven't actually thought about United's problems because it's just been funny to watch. So like, I can't think of like someone off the top of my head, but like there are definitely managers out there that I think could do a pretty good job. Do you know who I would have actually thought could have done a very good job for you? The Bournemouth manager, but he signed a new deal. So yeah.
What's your thoughts, David, on Thomas Frank?
I think he's got a bit of David Moyes about him, where like his football works up to a point and then it stops in terms of like he makes bad teams good, not good teams great. So I think if you went to United, you kind of end up in a situation where like your football would be okay and like you'd be there and about, but you'd probably end up finishing like 6th or 7th. He's not going to raise the level of the squad you currently have. So I like, for me personally, I just don't see Thomas Frank as being an elite manager. I just don't see it in his football. But
it's an interesting. I mean, I don't mind Thomas Frank, but I listen. I hear the challenge. I think it holds water. Obviously, people in the comments say here says Southgate to United. Look, I just don't. Do you know one of the biggest reasons why I don't think it's going to be Southgate? Again, it's looking at the people that are currently working at the club to help fix it. So Ashworth will be in. Wilcock is there. We've got Blanc in the club, and Barada's coming. There's no way they're waiting until the end of July to start talks with the manager, mid-July to start talks with the manager, because Southgate isn't going to start conversations now and whatever else. Even if we are doing the talks now and we do the deal now, which I don't think you will, because it won't be announced, because that will hurt England's chances potentially. Might improve them, but probably hurt them. We're already going to have started pre-season, and we're not going to have the new manager in the first summer of our rebuild. Again, it doesn't make sense to me. When I think about the caliber and CV that these individuals have coming in, it doesn't make sense to go for a Southgate who probably wouldn't be with us until 2.5 weeks before the season starts. You really do need a manager who can start work, essentially, if we get rid of Ten Hag, who can start work on the 1st of June, who's in there, ready to go, starting to look at things. That's one of my biggest reasons. Listen, I'd take Almiron. I think Almiron would be, Almiron I would take. Listen, I'm not against any manager. I trust these people I'm going to trust these individuals that have come in to run our football club. When you look at their CVs, without them making any mistakes at Man United right now, who are we to say they're not going to do a good job? We know for a fact that Ineos has the power over the football operations, because it's Ineos's people that have been going to the AGM meetings and that have been making the decisions when it comes to voting for salary caps in the Premier League, etc. They are running it. So who are we? It's a genuine question. I don't know who we are as Man United fans to challenge the caliber of individual now making football decisions before they've even started. I think this is where you sit back as a Man United fan and go, well, even if it goes against what I personally want, it's not a banker or an accountant or a marketing executive that's picking my manager and players anymore. Surely that has to fill us with an air of confidence that we're going to at least improve somewhat. Surely.
Yeah, I think Thomas Frank, I mean, let's be honest, man. Thomas Frank in a Manchester United that is well run with the right players and the right amount of money. Look at what he's done with the team he's at. He's done decent with the players that he has. And I think sometimes when you look at a manager, if they were in a better club and they have the backing, Arteta is a good example because he was a novice manager, but he had the backing of the owners and they stuck with him and they let him do what he needed to do to grow to wherever he's at now. Fine, you can say he hasn't won trophies and all that, but you can see how steady the club is now. Like if Arteta leaves today and Zidane is available, which I know he's not, but let's just say he's available. If he comes to Arsenal, we win immediately. You can the club is set up enough to be able to just carry itself and run now. And that's a good thing. So I think if you have someone like him with the right amount of money, the backing, the right players, he cleans out the whole, brings his own people, and he has the backing of the owners. In 2-3 seasons, I see a very steady Manchester United. Now you can then turn around and be like, let's now get the guy, who's going to take us and start winning, because now we steady the club. Because what he's done, he steadied the what's his name? I keep mixing them up. They came from Championship, and he steadied them. Brentford. He steadied them. Like, look at where they are.
But ironically, that's what Southgate did with England. But most of us just think he's kind of overstayed. That's the one thing I would say in defense of Southgate to Man United. He went into England when England was on its arse, and it was such a point. Was the World Cup in 2018 was the first tournament we went to where there was zero expectation. Everybody went, what we're going to do. And over the course of the next 4 or so years, he really built up the expectations again, to a point now where people are saying we probably need a better manager to get us over the line. And a lot of Man United fans want to ignore this. That may very well be where we are as a club, where it's going to take time. And maybe the person you bring in turns into the guy to win you the trophies. But then may need to be a sort of stopgap in that time. But I know Standard FC all think, sign 3 good players, sign a world-class manager, and you start winning. But that's what the bankers and the accountants were asking us to do. But equally, David and Ram, remember, they've been here. These are the same Man United fans who never really blamed the way we were run for being where we were. They never really condemn that side of it. So I kind of get their view and opinion. Super chat here says, Terry, tell my wife she looks, he also makes you saying gorgeous. Oh, he's redone it. Tell my wife she looks gorgeous tonight. It's for you, Kate. It's from Jim, your husband.
He came to troll you live on the internet.
Thanks. He only does it because he likes to see me blush.
I like it. Do you know what?
Jimbo, you're turning red. Look at your face.
Jimbo's. You know what? You know it's
Well
going to
done,
be
Jim.
tonight, Kate. You're going to be laying there in bed. You're going to get the arm across you. Do you know what I mean?
I hope so.
Love it. Go on, Jim. Hell no. Stop the fuckery about Thomas Frank to United. But Campbell, you're back in. Why would you back everything at the club? You back everything at the club. By the way, Oral Campbell, I did see what you tweeted at Astrid Wet today, and I did chuckle to myself. It was funny. Ten Hag stays next season. Southgate after. Laugh. There's no way. There's no way we're gonna give Ten Hag another year just to sack him for Southgate for the summer after again. And that's a bit of banter, but it's not happening. Competition improves youth players. Look at Foden. I agree with that. And I want to say to you, okay, thank you very much for becoming an official member. Another club that's gone through a little bit of turmoil this year is Chelsea, but you do, David, appear to be really coming out the other end. If it wasn't for a silly moment from Reece James last night, it would have been another good performance, another comfortable win. It really would have been.
Yeah, no, as I said, just give it time. That's all it needed. It's a whole brand new squad of 25 players. The team who won the Champions League 3 years ago, 2 of them are still here, and they're both injury prone as hell. So, of course, there was going to be some teething issues with it, but it doesn't shock me. As I was telling everyone when it was, we were sat in 11th. It's we're not a bad football team. The numbers say we're not a bad football team. It will come good eventually. You just got to leave it and give it time. You've signed a group of 21, 22-year-olds, and by definition, they're going to be inconsistent. But when they hit their consistency, things will get better and better. And now we're in a position where we could finish 5th in the league. So, yeah, it doesn't shock me. I would love to be I was wrong. No, do you know what? I wouldn't love to be I was wrong, because I am smarter than other Chelsea fans. And I'll say that proudly.
Say it with chest.
My track record on Chelsea compared to most other Chelsea fans on this channel is far better, because I told all of them Lukaku is bad. I said Mount was bad. I said Havertz isn't the devil that you all think he is. And I said give Poch time and he'll grow. And suddenly, do you know what? Poch out.
Thomas Tuchel.
Thomas. I was right about Thomas Tuchel. When we hired him, everyone said he was going to be bad, and I was like, "Nah, this guy's good." And then we sacked him, and everyone's crying about it. My track record's pretty good. So maybe the next time I say something you disagree with, listen to what I'm saying, because I'm just looking at things from a different perspective. I don't have Twitter, so I don't see Chelsea X25 with Malo Gusto's face on the bio. I ain't seen them guys. I think by myself. So
there is something to be said for a football fan who doesn't really consume social media rather than being live on our shows, and the opinions you hold versus, because I would love to see, we've done it in the studio a few times, we're everyone stay off Twitter, and then we give our opinions on the match reaction, and let's see how different it is to what everybody else is saying when you haven't had the chance to be influenced by others' opinions. I do think that holds some water.
Yeah, no, because I don't get, when things get bad at Chelsea, I get annoyed, but I don't see another 12,000 Chelsea fans tweeting Poch out at the same time to influence what I'm thinking. It's all my own thoughts. The only time I've had a problem with Poch was when we lost 5-0 to Arsenal, and I was there why do you keep changing the squad? And then the game after, he said, this is the 11, and then he played it again and again and again, and we won 4 in a row. So, again, people act like our football club, the people who run the club, the coaches, the people just act like everyone who's at Chelsea is stupid. And I've said the amount of analysis done on my club this season has just been flat out lazy, because like there are people going, oh yeah, all they did was go on YouTube and sign players that have good highlights. If you really think that's what Chelsea are doing, you shouldn't be paid to talk about football, because you have to look deeper into what's going on. Is that simple? Chelsea have gone, we aren't going to be good enough currently to challenge the Man Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals. So we're going to go young, and we're going to build up the young squad. And what I think is going to happen, even though people may disagree with it, so I think they're going to keep signing young players, because the young group they brought in this year, in 4 years, will be the experienced group. And then because you don't have to keep signing loads of young players, the 1 or 2 you add in every year will have the experience above them to get better. That's what I think the plan is. So I hope that they stick to the plan and don't listen to football fans, because football fans, the average football fan who doesn't watch the terrace, isn't the brightest person. So yeah.
So you're basically saying every Chelsea fan is a basically dumb sheep.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that fans are incredibly influenced by what they read online and what other rivals think about their club. So when you've got Liverpool, Arsenal, City fans and Spurs fans being like, Chelsea are the worst group in the world, like what you're all doing makes no sense, your transfers don't add up and blah, 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 you've got no plan, you're going to get two fans which are like, I fully agree, I'm going to hate my club completely. Or you get fans who are going to completely fight back and say Enzo Fernandez is the best player in the world. That tends to be what happens. There's never like it's a weird way of saying it, but the world needs balance. So if everyone's going at you saying your team's the absolute worst, and then you've got some fans saying your team's the absolute worst, you're going to have a small sect of Chelsea fans that are going to be like, no, our team is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Enzo Fernandez is world class. Caicedo is world class. Madueke is world class. You're going to get all of these. It's going to happen. It's gonna. No, but it's gonna. Don, I'm not saying Don, but I'm saying.
But David, right. But this happens in life. David, this happens. This has happened through the history of modern day history. This happens politically. As soon as you get, it doesn't matter who it is, whoever is the sort of the dominant culture that runs the arts, runs TV, runs policies, is in the government. You get a counterculture that's normally the complete opposite to it, and this has happened many times in my lifetime already, and it happens within football now because we're seeing it play out online. And you're right, some will go, I'm going to go with the rivals and absolutely trash my club. Others go the opposite end where they defend too much. But I do think often the right answer is in the middle. But people, it seems to not be popular on social media to be in the middle. It's either you've got to be in one of the polarized groups.
You can criticize Todd Bowley and say, you signed too many young players and you've put us into a bit of a financial hole where you're having to sell hotels and so on and so forth. Whatever your opinion is on that, right? You can sit there and be like, that's not the brightest thing to do. But to sit there and say Todd Bowley didn't have a plan in the first place, I don't think is correct. Well, okay, let me put it like this. Obviously, the Koulibaly, Sterling, that window, that was just, I want to sign big names, and I get it. You can have a go. That window, I fully agree, you can have a go at. But when he brought in Stewart and Winstanley, it was very clear what the club was trying to do. It was, we are going to try and find all the best young players we can. We're going to bring them into Chelsea, and we're either going to play them or we're going to send them on loan to Strasbourg or wherever they're going to go. And in 2 or 3 years, we will have a very good football team. That's the plan. Again, I don't want to boil it down to, oh, he's American, so this is what the Americans do. But it is quite an American style model where teams will tank, lose a lot, and they'll get like the best draft picks, and they'll be able to get the best young players and then build their team up in that way. That is an American thing to do. NBA. And I don't think it's the worst. I don't think it's the worst plan in the Premier League's current state, because as Arsenal have shown, you can have a really good squad right now, and you can play the best football you have in about 4 or 5 years, and you still might lose to a City team that has a Hojlund who's out of form, a Kevin De Bruyne who's played 33% of the games. you know, and Edison, who's a midfielder in goal. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't challenge them, but what I'm saying is if you're a betting man, your best bet is to bet for the time after the superpowers that currently are leave, because we're so far behind. To catch up to that gap in one summer or 2 summers is very unlikely. So
there is an element of truth to that. And I was reading a piece today from a study about what success is. And the premise of this study that was done over a 5-year period was, is second place failure or a stepping stone to success? And it was such an interesting read, because there isn't, again, the part of the conclusion essentially says that it all depends upon your outlook of life. But what was really interesting is that when they interviewed and they questionnared multiple people, highly successful people, and then individuals that could have been successful but didn't quite make it. And you find that most people that could have been really successful but didn't quite get to the top. So not bums, but people that could have gone to the Olympics but didn't quite get there. People that could have played in the NFL but didn't quite get there, or people that got drafted and they kind of faded away. Those people typically saw second place as being a loser, and it makes you a bad person. Where the people that were quite successful saw second place as motivation to keep getting better. I'm happy with that, but I now want more. And they viewed it from a positive outlook. And sort of my takeaway from reading this really in-depth sort of piece was that winners don't think second place and don't think the journey towards winning is a bad thing. But yet the people that didn't quite make it in life to the heights they could have been see it as failure. And there's something in that for me personally. Doesn't make it right in every single case, because the world isn't that black and white. But I look at Chelsea and I think, Todd Bowley and co have made some really big mistakes. I think Poch this season has made some really big mistakes, playing too many people out of position to begin with. I think he was never giving certain players enough run of time running in the team. But what he has gone and done is turned it round. He has absolutely, in the last 2 to 3 months, turned it round. I've got a sneaky feeling they're going to end up 5th ahead of Tottenham. I just think that Spurs have checked out, especially after the other game. Spurs might lose to Sheffield United. I just got this gut feeling. Just looking at the way Ches and Donovan in the group chat, they're buzzing right now, and I feel like this is going to be another day to add to that.
If
but
Chelsea
so much of that,
if Chelsea finish 5th,
mad.
Everyone, I want apologies written to my club.
No.
I want apologies. I don't care. All of you called my club
David,
a bunch of lunatics.
David,
we would be one spot by Champions League.
David, the people you should request an apology from are your fans.
Yes.
Oh, don't worry. That's been
Don't
commissioned
expect it from any one of us.
That's
Your
already
fans.
commissioned. That's already commissioned.
No.
I thought all of them, when they were sat here trying to gaslight me into saying that Poch is coaching losses. I said, what are you watching? Nicholas Jackson just needs to square the ball.
David, can I say something? Can I say this, David? Poch, like Terry, what you said, Poch did make a lot of mistakes this season, but we have to also look at some. I mean, injury is not an excuse. Every team has injuries, but Chelsea had averagely 15 injuries at a given point in the season. 15. Like, you have to then realize that the manager may not be able to play what he wants to play because the capacity of the players he has to use in those positions, he has to play them out of place.
Dio, then give Ten Hag that.
No. I'm giving Ten Hag the same. That's what I'm saying. Like, I give this. Like, Terry knows when I speak about things like this. I the same thing with Ten Hag. If Ten Hag had all his players right, and Manchester United are playing terrible football, then I will blame Ten Hag fully and be like, listen, dude, you had everybody fit. You had all your first 11. You had the players that you needed. Everybody was kicking and ready to run, but you were playing them out of place and you messed it up. Because you have a lot of injuries, I understood why Poch was not really like firing on all cylinders, right? And that's why whenever I spoke about Chelsea, I always said something, even though I like to, banter you guys, I always said, you don't know what Chelsea to expect. They're not consistent. Consistency was the big thing that was missing with Chelsea. And this was because of a lot of factors. One of the major factors, you have a bunch of young players who are inexperienced in the Premiership. And guess what? To blend them together and for them to have that experience is going to take time. So that will make them inconsistent. You have a coach who now has to blend this whole bunch of kids. And out of these kids, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of them are injured. Boom. Now I have to work with what I have, inconsistencies. But the minute there was a consistent set of players, you saw how he began to tweak. in game, tweak, and all of a sudden they look like they're going to be very dangerous. So I think
Yeah.
that there's
can I just go to Kate on this? Obviously, you know Poch very well as a Spurs supporter. Are you? I assume you're not surprised to see the turnaround now that he's found his settled team.
No, not at all. I mean, I get what David's saying, but I was here saying that I think he needs time. I did doubt him at the beginning. He did make a lot of mistakes, but I sit here and watch Poch, and I think he's going to bring success to Chelsea. I asked a question on my channel a couple of weeks ago, if we could swap Ange now and get Poch back, what would we do? And it was very 50-50. I'd take Poch over Ange in a heartbeat. I love the way he plays football. And I think he's got so much to prove. And I think they will back him at Chelsea, which is something that our chairman didn't do. And it's going to hurt me because I think he will be successful at Chelsea. I think they've got to be patient. At the end of the day, Chelsea fans are used to having Abramovich there, just buying this and buying that and winning everything. But you are at the start of a project, but you can already see the last few games I've watched Chelsea, I think they look so much better, so dangerous. And it wouldn't surprise me if they pip us to 5th. I don't think they will. I do think we'll beat Sheffield United. If we don't, oh my God, I can't even cope. But I think you just got to stick with this guy. He gets so much hate. And I appreciate people think he's a bottler and he's a serial loser, but I really rate him. Like I say, I would have loved to have had him. He was my number one choice to have back at the lane at the start of the season.
There will come a point where Poch's sell-by date will come along, and that's when you'll probably think to yourselves, oh, we might go for someone that's a little bit proven in terms of winning. I think when it comes to building players up, I mean, Poch has enough experience with that. As in, like, people forget, people talk about Tottenham. What he did at Southampton as well, 2013-14, people forget about that because that team was playing such silky football, such really good young players coming through, and they actually set the foundation of what Southampton were going to do during the mid-2010s. So I think for now, I think Chelsea fans should be happy. And I want to touch upon what Terry said and what he said about people having a go at this ownership. I will say a lot of those people that are having a go at these ownerships are the same people that are wanting Abramovich back and are so used to having their team spend £200 million every single transfer window, out buying everybody and buying whoever that Abramovich wanted. And look, it's great, but at the time when Abramovich left, you hadn't won a league title for about 7 years, and there was no way you were going to be on that level at that time, at the same level as a Liverpool City. That's just how it was. And look, Bowley's made mistakes, but at least there's something you can build upon. I still don't agree with the fact that, you're going to still buy young players. I still think you guys need experience in your team. I've always said that. You can't win anything with kids. That's what I've believed in. So it's just what you're going to see what Poch is going to do with his team. It's as simple as that, man.
There's a comment here I want to highlight that says, Terry, you did exactly what David said, hosted numerous shows, hammering Chelsea, straight facts, top 6, without nuance or balance, which has been disappointing. Well, obviously, as a host, my job is I put out my opinions, but everybody that comes on has the opportunity to have their say. And we've definitely had a variety of Chelsea fans on this year. We cannot say that CB and Don are not two. If we look at CB, Don, David, Ches, Matty, probably the 5 most consistent appearers on the terrace this year from Chelsea's perspective. That, for me, DJ, is balance. But if you also look at what I said, and I respect you, long-term viewer, long-term super chat, so massive respect. I have definitely criticized some of the things. I've got a question mark over Poch. I'm not his biggest fan in terms of getting over the line. So that remains. I believe he was rightfully criticized at the beginning of the season. Young squad, inexperienced squad or not. Play people in their best positions. Try your best to find an 11 to 13 players that you predominantly play, get their form up. I think he chopped and changed too much at the beginning, which didn't help. I stand by that. But he has turned it round. I've equally credited him for it. When it comes to Chelsea, look, I understand the model of buying young players. I don't disagree with David's view that they might keep buying young. I do think they've got to add some more experience to this team. 2 or 3 players, because some of the experience is going to leave, and you need that to help develop. A little bit like if you plant a bush or a tree in your garden, there's a time where you have to have supports next to it. You have to put some bamboo in the ground to help it grow in the right direction. Otherwise, it can go wrong. So I do think Chelsea need to go and buy that still. If they don't, then we'll address it. But I have criticised Clearlake for some of their mistakes, and rightfully so. I criticise them for the £200 million black hole. They've found a way out of it by selling assets. Now, as long as they start to improve on the pitch like we've seen in the last few months, and they get back towards the Champions League, get back towards challenging, then Clearlake's financial situation is not going to be an issue. I've been consistent on that. I've also said before that the premise of what Clearlake have tried to do, I think, is right. I just think they've made too many mistakes in getting there, which have set them back. So there is a lot going on at Chelsea at the minute, but they certainly are improving. And Todd Bowley's comments today, I wanted to read these out, actually, state that I did have them on the screen, now they've disappeared. He said earlier on today, I want to get Giuseppe's opinion on this. He said, Todd Bowley said that Chelsea needs stability to be successful, appearing to endorse the idea of keeping Pochettino beyond the end of the season. That still seems to be up in the air whether he stays or not. Do you think Chelsea will now stick with Poch, considering how good they've been in the last few months?
Yeah, I mean, you have to stick with Poch. I don't. Once again, this notion of sacking a manager after one season when he's come into an absolute mess, even if he had finished 8th or 9th, I think you still would have had to keep him for another season and let him go again and see what he can do. Because sometimes you're looking for your first 11, you're looking for your best players, you're sort of learning the players. Definitely when they're young, you're sort of learning what they're great at, what their best positions are, who works well together, systems, tweaking things. I think Chelsea have had a little bit of fortune toward that. Like, obviously, give Chelsea credit, but I think they've had a bit of fortune finishing where they're finishing now. I think that's due to also a lot of teams above them really falling off at the end of the season. But they've had to get the points and keep going towards the end of the season. They've also had like Parma, which has really saved them this season. But for Poch, I think he's got a track record of getting people there or thereabouts. He done it with Spurs. Now, to be honest, if you could do it with Spurs, you can do it with Chelsea with the finances that Chelsea will give him and stuff. That's not a dig at Spurs per se, like that is Spurs, but it's like they didn't back him. He was doing this with minimal funds and minimal transfers and stuff like that. So if you're giving him a team where he can actually delve into the transfers and stuff and build his team, I think he can be successful. Will he get it over the line? Maybe not, but that's not what Chelsea need right now. Chelsea fans cannot look at it right now and say we need to win the league next season or in the next 2 seasons. I think that's the wrong mentality to have. I know you've won a lot and Chelsea are a big team, but when you're looking at the way City have been, how Arsenal have been building over the past 3-4 years, you have to realize that you might have to just wait your turn a little bit. You might have to get there or thereabouts and then maybe get a winner in to get you over the line. So I think to sack Poch would be a mistake. Who'd you get? Once again, there's all this notion. People love to go sack him to all these managers, but then they can't really give you a credible person to bring in that's going to guarantee you better than the guy that you've currently got.
That's been my biggest issue with every time I came on a show and people were like, sack Poch. My argument was, which manager are you going to bring in who is able to work with the current squad that we have? Because the hole we were in financially, you can't just get rid of them and bring in the 31-year-old world class. You can't do it. So they're going to have to work with the young players. So when people were like, oh yeah, I want to sack Poch to get in Mourinho, I was like, this is the exact reason why you do not run a football club.
David,
because you'd run it into the ground.
I've said it all the time with Arsenal fans. If Arsenal fans that think they know what they're talking about online and stuff, on Twitter and stuff, if the club listened to you, we'd still be an 8th. We wouldn't be where we are if the club listened to you. Even when they say sack Arteta now, they can't give me actual attainable managers. They'll be like Ancelotti. That's the first thing all their fans start. Get Ancelotti. You're not getting Ancelotti away from Real Madrid. And this is what I'm saying with Chelsea, that you're not getting, for me, a better manager now for you guys than Poch. The fact that he's turned it around shows there's something there. The players are playing for him. That's the main thing. I always say, if the players are playing for the manager and you're moving forward, why sack him? Unless it's like with Ten Hag, there's a difference. He's digressed since last season. You look at certain players, you think maybe they're not playing for him. So it's a little bit of a different scenario to Chelsea. So that's why I think I think it's silly for Chelsea to think of sacking Pochettino now. And if you finish in Europa League, after where you were after 15, 20 games this season, I think it's bad for Chelsea, and I think you could then digress back into being 8th and stuff, like battling around that position. Whereas next year, if all goes right for him in the transfer window and that, you could be battling for top 4 next season with that team, because you do look good. Even we beat you, we smashed you. You had to get that in, we smashed you. But like after that, I also think you got to have credit for, after getting smashed against your London rival like that, to actually bounce back and win a load of games. You could have easily just thrown in the towel at the end of the season and said, that's it. The players could have been like, that's it. We're done. The manager could have been like, that's it. I'm losing my job. That's done. But they haven't. They've stuck at it. And listen, I think Pochettino is a great manager for where you are right now and the team you're building and the structure you're going for. You're doing the Arsenal approach. And I do disagree with buying more young players. I think you do need to buy some more older players.
Me personally, trust me, I don't like youth players. I think if you want to win, you shouldn't be signing 20-year-olds. But that's what I think the club's going to do. Me personally, I would sign like 4 28-year-olds. 4 28, 26 to like 29-year-olds who have like played like a good 300 games. Just because those players are less prone to stupidity during matches.
I've got a question for the whole panel. In modern football, as in like football today, has there ever been a team that's gone out and sacked managers and still continue to gain success?
Real Madrid.
And maybe even Chelsea.
People say Real Madrid, but Real Madrid, the only 2 managers that had proper success are Ancelotti and Zidane. That's it. Nobody else.
I think the problem is when it comes to sacking managers, again, people will use Real Madrid and Chelsea of old as it worked for them, but then you're ignoring the context surrounding it. Real Madrid, who have always been able to attract some of the very best players in the world. So the core group of players at their club is invariably top class. So it's an easier thing to do. When Chelsea went through the early Roman era of sacking people, they had more money than anybody else because there was no FFP. They were outspending everybody, paying wages nobody else could afford. So you could go through managers because they were inheriting a team that had Cech and Terry and Lampard and Cole and Drogba. It had this brilliant core to it. City right now could do that because they have such a brilliant core. If every time a manager started to foul, they just would get the next best thing, it would work for a period of time. The problem that you have is when you end up, for one reason or another, with a squad that is not even in the top 2 or 3 in England, let alone probably not even in the top 10 in Europe, you can't just sack managers in the same way. I think what you have to try and do is build a team up to that level again. So I don't believe that element of sacking managers is gone per se for the whole of football. It depends on what club you are, where you play, and how much of a monopoly you have. You need, for me, it's such a. Whenever I hear that argument, I always think of that meme where a guy calls a woman a basic bitch, because that's what it is. It's a very basic football argument. Real Madrid have sacked lots of managers, therefore it's the right thing to do. But that only makes sense if the team you're talking about is the same as Real Madrid, if their scenario is the same as Madrid. And that's the problem when you use, and I had that conversation with Will the other day, like you've got Madrid fans. If you apply the Madrid standards to every single club, it's ridiculous because they're not all the same. And I was listening to Jamie Carragher today talk about Arsenal and saying how, what you actually really should look at. And it was the first time we actually heard of a professional football person actually mention the real most important element of spending at a club, which is player salaries. Man City's player salaries is at 470 million, which is only 50 million pounds less than Arsenal actually generate in turnover. So to build this squad and to keep this squad at City, they spend almost as much on salary as Arsenal turnover. So, and that isn't me defending Arsenal before anyone starts to cry, but saying that Arsenal have got to do what City does is impossible. It is fundamentally impossible at this particular moment in time. They've got to build those revenues up by 200 to 300 million pound more to spend more on the wages. So you just get to this point sometimes with football fans where I hear what they say at base level. They say it. You demonstrate to them why that isn't quite possible, and you just get met with you just got bad standards. You're just lowering the standards. No, we're not. We're being, someone said, how is that possible? Well, because Man City turnover 830 plus million a year. Arsenal turnover around 530 million. There's almost a 300 million pound differential of income between the two clubs. So the reason why, and Chelsea, by the way, were able to do this. And Man United, we very rarely lost our best players at Man United. And some of that was because we were Man United. But the reason predominantly we didn't lose our best players is we had the income to keep paying them the most amounts of money possible to keep them. That's why when people say, well, why are Brighton selling their players? Well, no one wants players that don't want to be at your club. But when suddenly clubs start saying to Caicedo, we'll pay you 150 grand a week. People start saying to McAllister, we'll pay you 200 grand a week. People start throwing these numbers. Brighton can't keep them. Brighton's wage bill is I don't even know how low it is. What anywhere between 50 to 100 million pound a year. They can't afford to start paying individuals 10, 12 million pound a year. They'll go bankrupt. So again, you can't apply these lenses the same. So this idea that Chelsea should just go back to sacking managers straight away is ridiculous because they do not have the squad and experience to handle that. It will absolutely fail. They'll create, like what Man United have done, a Frankenstein squad, and they'll just keep treading water, falling backwards, climbing, falling down. It will never get back to where you want to be. It just can't, in my opinion. How they would have done that is by continuing. If they would have, if this squad now was like the squad of 15, 20 years ago, then fair enough. But it certainly isn't for me. Super Chat here says, besides the striker, what positions are most important for Chelsea to address? I think a lot of players are going to get sold this summer. What would you say to that, David?
Striker, do not bring me Osimhen. I am saying it now with my chest, like I said with Lukaku. If I see Osimhen in the Chelsea shirt, I'll be angry because it ain't going to work.
Let's be honest, Dave. You have stocks in Sesko. That's why.
No. It's not even because I like Sesko. That's not it. I have rules. 100 mil signings don't work, and I'll die on that hill. I will die on that hill. They do not work. Even Mbappe at 100 and whatever mil did minimal.
Declan Rice's works, isn't it?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. No. Because Arsenal finished second last year and they signed Declan Rice to improve them by winning the league or winning a Champions League. Until they win that major trophy, that even though he's a great player, the objective for what he was brought in to do, along with other players, I'm not putting it all on Declan Rice, but he's a major part of it. Until they win that major trophy, for me, it ain't a success. Because for 100 mil, I'm expecting success. That's what he's brought in to do. Before anyone kills me, I'm not saying Rice is bad. In fact, Rice is fantastic. I'm not, as a player, as like quality-wise, he's one of the best DMs in the world. I will say it.
David, I will argue it though that if we had Declan Rice if we had Declan Rice last season with that points gap that we had, we won the league last season.
That's a shame.
No. So what you're saying,
so he has improved us.
So David, what you're saying? No, David, what you're saying is
he hasn't improved you.
David, what you're saying is if he doesn't win if you're a 100 million player and you don't get your team over the line to win trophies, then you have not done your job. Is that what we're saying?
100%.
Okay, good. So you're basing it on the trophies and the winning.
I'm basing it on the trophies.
Yeah. You're not basing it on
irrespective.
Yeah, you're not basing it on performance irrespective. Okay, well,
yeah.
By that metric, then I would say based on your logic, you're right by that metric. But if you're basing it on if I paid 100 million for Caicedo and Rice, and I want to look at both of them vis-a-vis their role as DMs, who's performing at 100 million? Like who's played and who's value? Who's
100% Declan Rice?
Yeah, I'm saying that's a different metric entirely. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with your metric of the winning. If you say it's because of trophies that you say if I bring you in at 100 million, you must get the team over the line and give me a trophy. If you don't give me a trophy, you've not valued your 100 million to me. You've not.
That's
Dave.
But if we're looking at it on performance, right? Because when you said $100 million players don't work, you said they don't work. You die on that hill. In my head, I heard they don't work because nobody should be valued at that Nobody should be
Yeah,
valued
no,
at that price, like
yeah.
the skill set.
That's my definition of it. But for Chelsea, strikers obviously very important. I would like a really very good winger, centre backs, because obviously we're losing Thiago Silva. Goalkeeper, I'm not too fussed about, but if you can get a good goalkeeper like a Jan Oblak, who apparently is on, who might be going, who is the best goalkeeper in the world, then by all means bring Jan Oblak into the frame. I'm not taking that back. I love Jan
60
Oblak.
mil for Aaron Ramsdale. Come on.
You can keep Aaron Ramsdale. That brother gets.
What about
ready.
Ter Stegen?
I'd take Ter Stegen. I wouldn't say no. Oh, however, I'm not sure how tall he is. And
oh my god,
yeah.
He's 6'2", bro. He's 6'3".
See, that's tiny. I'd need my 2 goalkeepers. Kepa's scarred me for life. That
but he's like 5'11", 6 foot.
He was 6 foot and he couldn't touch corners. Salah was like, I don't even have to hit this hard. I just need to hit it in the corner. He won't get there. Yeah, no, my goalkeepers have to be tall.
I get that. Another super chat here says, panel, imagine Spurs lose to Sheffield United, Chelsea win and get 5th, and United beat City in the FA Cup final to get Europe. Will Spurs fans still be happy for losing to City? Oh, yeah, that would put Spurs in the conference, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's a great shout.
I wasn't happy anyway because we had something, not only because we had something to play for, but obviously we did because we were still in the chance of Champions League. I just don't. This past week has just been a revelation to me as much as it has to Ange. Number one, there's no team that I dislike more than I like my own team. Number two, I will never cheer for City to win anything because they're cheats. Even though it's against my rivals, I can't. I can't do it. It goes against everything in my brain. It's just unethical, and I just find it embarrassing. To see the Tottenham fans celebrating City's goals, I can't cope with it. But apparently that's because I'm not a real fan. Because apparently, if you wanted Spurs to win, you're actually not a real fan. So I'm one of them.
Terry, somebody asked me, he said, are you going to cheer for Tottenham to win? And I said, no, I don't like Tottenham. I'm not going to cheer for Tottenham to win. But I will pray for City's downfall. I will pray that, their goalkeeper makes a mistake and scores an own goal by himself. He misses the ball and drops it in the net. I would pray for that kind of stuff for City. City is the person that I did not want to, I don't care what Spurs do. If they're not able to score, that's their business. But I would pray for City's downfall. But I will not support Spurs, I
get that. So
I also don't like the thing that people are trying to compare us wanting Spurs to win, to Spurs wanting themselves to lose. There is a difference in that. We can want Spurs to win that game and still hate Spurs because they don't do anything for Spurs. Might give them a chance to get in top 4, but if Aston Villa win the last game of the season, they still don't get it. We wanted to win the league. Spurs are actually physically cheering for their own team losing a game, and there's the difference. Is like, for me, I'm not gonna lie. I know I'll say it I think it's one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen in football, in my lifetime. No. And let me say why. Let me say why. It's not the fact that Spurs didn't want to win the game. Spurs fans didn't want to win the game, because that's fair enough. The rivalry is huge. They don't want to see us win the league. I understand that. But it's the shamelessness and the public celebrations. Like, you do that and then you celebrate privately, and then online you go, oh, damn, we didn't win. Or you be a little bit, maybe to say two-faced about it, might be the wrong way, but you sort of have a bit of self-pride and pride of your team. Not that you're online and in the stadium celebrating that you've got former players in Man City shirts on Talk Sport.
But you've got Arsenal Fan TV and amongst other Arsenal channels kissing the Tottenham cockerel badge and cheering for Spurs.
I agree with this, right? So I look at it this way: not wanting Arsenal to win the league is fine. Celebrating losing when it also ended your hopes of Champions League football, I find crazy. Arsenal fans kissing the badge is also mad. Any that did that, it doesn't make. I don't even like holding in my hand other clubs' kits. It's something about it. No disrespect, makes me feel dirty. Equally, though, I know Spurs fans will throw out, "Oh, Arsenal fans wanted to lose the final in Baku if it meant we didn't win our final." I find that equally embarrassing. But I think social media is to blame for a lot of this, in the sense of people. It's why you said something earlier, David, about how when people go in on Chelsea, some Chelsea fans will fight back, probably with too much vim. But then there's another percentage that go, do you know what? I'm going to take the easy way out and just side with the rivals because it becomes a shield against banter. And I almost feel like people do that around, oh, I'm going to cheer if we lose because it's a bit of a shield. Or they go, how do I minimize the banter? I know I'm going to say something outrageous. It's kind of weird to me. I feel like social media has made people kind of behave this way, especially when people are told it makes you look like you're a better fan than you are. It is crazy.
I think there's too much hate in the world. Man.
This here from Jason says, a proper panel, lovingly informed and sensible discussion. I know we say this a lot, but next season could be a banger. Will City be favourites? City are definitely favourites as of right now. But listen, if Chelsea improve again, Man United rebuild, if it takes a bit of a, if it does this, you've got Slot coming in, Ange in his second year. It could be an absolutely amazing season next year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And thank you for the super chat. So has Grealish been £100 million player? I'm not sure.
Arguably, yeah, because he still contributed to a treble.
You see, the thing is, again, because right, even though Grealish towards the end of the season was quite important, performance-wise, I don't think he has been £100 million player. However, he did help them win a treble. So I'm kind of sat here in this weird spot where I'm like, I don't know.
It does become a difficult one when it does become a difficult one, as you say, when when they've won major trophies. It becomes a really hard thing to play down. This year says people are so reactionary these days. Chelsea aren't playing so well and underperformed. They spent so much and still 6 because of Spurs, Newcastle United playing badly. But do you know what I will say, KD? There is an element of that, and Giuseppe's called it out. But Chelsea's performances are still Chelsea's performances. And this is why when people say, well, that goal took you from 7th to 7th, you shouldn't celebrate it. That's also a take that sometimes I understand it holds water. But other times, if just say Man United and Newcastle and Spurs carried on winning all our games when Chelsea had been winning recently, other than when they played each other, would that mean Chelsea's improvement doesn't exist? The answer is no. Chelsea would still have got better, but their league position may not have grown. In an idealistic world, though, Katie, this is what I mean by league positions. League positions are important. But if next season everybody's as good as City, do you know somebody's still going to finish 7th? Someone's still going to be 8th. Someone's still going to be 9th. Even if everybody spends like City, acts like City, behaves like City, 19 teams are going to lose the league title. So at the same time, that's why you can't just do results-based analysis and positional analysis by itself. You have to look at performances as well, because performances is where consistency stems from, and Chelsea's performances have been very good recently. I just want to get through these super chats and move on to the next subject. Sorry. Big Ange to United wants a winning attitude. Listen, I wouldn't say no to Big Ange, to be fair. That's already done this one here. A lot of them did it under Arsenal fan skins. Difference is Arsenal did it to win. Tottenham didn't went against it. No, I hear you, Harold. I definitely think there's a difference there. Love the new title graphics, Terry. Big up the panel. Yeah, we have changed the thumbnails today for the first time in 3 years. I'd like to get some feedback on the new thumbnail. If you could, people, that would be absolutely great. There will be 20 points difference at the end of next season between 2nd and 3rd. I honestly can't see any club coming anywhere near City or Arsenal.
That's ridiculous. So you're basically saying it's 80, it'll be 88, 87, and it'll be 68 from there.
I agree.
I cannot see that happening. I cannot see that happening.
I don't.
I can't.
From where, again, speak about my club personally, from where we've been this year, I can easily see us getting 12 more points. And at that point, you're asking the teams above us to get 95, 96, which is not impossible, but I ain't going to bet on it. So
yeah, I can still see us getting 75 points minimum next season.
Yeah, I think he's saying it just based off the fact that, of course, Liverpool has a new manager come in, and even though the club is well run, there's going to be that dip, regardless of how it is. There's going to be some level of dip. So I think that's why he's saying that, like 20 points difference between 2nd and 3rd. But Chelsea making making top 4 next season looks very plausible right now with the way they're playing and the fact that the injured players are coming back. If they have a full squad and Poch does what he did in the preseason that I saw him do at preseason this year, yeah, top 4 is not far away from them. But yeah, that 20 points is a lot. You can say maybe 12 to 16.
You think it could happen, Kate? Why is that?
Because I think City and Arsenal are just different gravy to everybody else. I really do. I think there's going to be a drop-off from Liverpool. We don't know which of their players are going to go yet, but let's say Salah and Van Dijk go. Possibly Trent could go. You're going to have a big drop-off there. I know Liverpool fans don't want to hear it, but that's how I see it. Chelsea, yeah, they're going to improve, but I don't think they're going to improve to the levels to get to Arsenal. Spurs might think they're going to get up there, but they're not, in my opinion. This is all obviously my opinion. I'll probably get slated for it. And Man United, again, they may improve. I expect them to improve, although I do expect them to have Ten Hag in charge. I just watch City and Arsenal and think they're levels above everybody else in the league, and they're only going to get better.
I don't disagree with that in the sense of that they're I think they're better than everybody else, those two. And we're going to get onto why Arsenal might improve in a minute with a story that's come out today. What I will throw in, though, is that this last season when Arsenal became title contenders, no one saw it coming. And I don't know who it's going to be, but I have just a football gut feeling there could be, and again, it could be Slot who goes into Liverpool and they just come alive. It could be next season, Chelsea.
Poch.
If you look at what Poch and Chelsea have done in the last 3 or 4 months, if they could put that over the course of a season, they could really close that gap. I think someone next year no one's going to knock Arsenal and City out of the top 2 next season, in my opinion. But I think someone could close that gap on them in terms of closing it. So yeah, I don't agree that there'll be that big gap between third, but I still think them two are going to be the best 2 teams in England next season. And one of the stories surrounding that today, and I'd love to go to Giuseppe first on this, is talk that Arsenal have again reached out to Bruno Guimarães' camp, and he appears to be one of the lead favourites to help bolster Arsenal's midfield. Is that exactly the type of player you think you need to be adding this summer?
Yeah. Bring him in. I think he's quality. I think he's a dog. I think he's a bit of a scumbag. And I think, like I say that, I think that's what we need in that midfield. I think we got because Declan Rice is a tough player, but he's not a scumbag. And I know that people might take that as negative, but I think you need that in league-winning teams. I think most with league-winning teams have that sort of player in their team that can do that and be a bit like down and dirty. And I think Bruno Guimarães just would complement Rice in the midfield so much with Odegaard ahead of them. That, like, I really rate him a lot. Like, I really do. And I know I wanted him personally before Newcastle got him. And we didn't get him. And we were looking at him. And he went to Newcastle. Now, to come in, I think it's less of a risk because we've seen him in the league. We know what he can do. I think he's the perfect midfielder for us. The only person that could make me sway away from him is maybe a De Jong, but I think he's the perfect midfield signing for Arsenal in the summer. Personally,
he ain't leaving, mate. He ain't leaving. De Jong ain't
why?
leaving.
You got why? Why?
Who's going to pay
De Jong
salary?
ain't leaving.
Who's
He
going
got
to pay
500k salary. He's not leaving.
Who's going to pay that guy 500k?
Yeah.
He better stay.
He's only on 5. He's only on 500k there because of other circumstances to do with the club.
That's what I'm saying.
He's sitting comfy though. He's sitting.
But that's
comfy.
what I'm saying. Are you going to? Is he going to take a pay cut to 275, like to become? Or are we going to pay him 350 grand? Like,
and he's
like
what are we saying here as well?
Let's be honest about it. So
it's not all about money for all players. We've got to remember that it's not all about money.
Yeah, but for some of them, it is.
He's a massive favourite to go to Manchester City.
Yeah,
he's huge favourite to go to City, and I think that if he's going to go anywhere, that's where we go.
To be fair, if Bruno did go to Arsenal, he'd look at like Kai Havertz's money and be like, "Well, I'm better than him, so whack on another 50." So he's probably going to end up on 400 anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, what is the difference between 400 and 500k?
See, I look at it this way, right? Newcastle United are trying to grow and move forward. We have to look at the fact that there is reportedly some FFP issues. They might end up deciding to sell I don't know if they own their training ground. Maybe they're going to sell their training ground or their stadium or a hotel, back to themselves the way Chelsea have. If Chelsea have, outside of that, they may need to sell somebody. Equally, I don't think Newcastle are yet at a position where they can stop people from going. I don't think that it was different for City. City had at least 4 years, maybe 5 years with no FFP. Chelsea had about a decade where they could build the squad, pay out huge amounts of money, and establish themselves. Where Newcastle, I know they made it into the Champions League last year. They did tremendously well. They've leveled out a little bit again this year. Still had a good season, I think, if you look at their last 20 years combined. I still don't think they're at the position where they can stop some of their better players from going. You know, very similar when City signed Robinho. We all knew Robinho weren't going to spend the rest of his career there as an example. There's still that element of, do I want to stay? Do I want to go? I think if Arsenal come knocking, this is where they'll be sensible as well, Newcastle. I think the Arsenals and the Man Cities will turn these heads. And when a player's head gets turned, clubs that are run well sell players. Because you don't want someone in the dressing room that doesn't want to be there. It's never, ever a good mix. And I think if Arsenal get a Bruno Guimarães, we've seen them obviously linked to Frankie de Jong. We've seen Zubimendi, who isn't as well established. I just look at Arsenal and think that, plus the strikers they're linked to, the Siscos and the Isaks. I mean, they're not going to get Guimarães and Isak. They're never going to get two out of Newcastle. And I think only one of those two is going to end up leaving Newcastle this summer. So it depends which ones they prioritise, which is why maybe Arsenal are now looking at Sisco if you look at the news, because they may think, well, we would prefer Bruno to Isak. So that's why, that's why people go, oh, but the media said something different a few weeks ago. Well, that's because the world fucking changes, bruv. It's, it doesn't stay the same every week. Relax yourselves. But I think if Guimarães goes to what you were saying earlier, Kate, about them being miles ahead of everybody, if they bring in someone like him, it's just going to be very hard for other people to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I agree. But like I say, I don't see him going there. City have made contact, and I think they'd choose City. But if they get him, if Arsenal get Guimarães, I will probably be sick again. All I seem to do you know what? Being a Tottenham fan ain't fun. You're just sick as a pig 99% of the time, and you never win nothing for it. I'm just going to put it out there.
Kate, City came knocking for Declan Rice as well. Remember that?
Yeah, but did they really want him that bad?
Yes, they did. They put down 100. They put down 100 million. They put
this
down
might be an
100
unpopular
million.
opinion.
95,
I think Arsenal is more. I know this might sound wild, but I think Arsenal is more of a head turn right now for certain players than Man City. And the reason I say that, and the reason I'll say that, because Arsenal are really on the cusp of doing something crazy, like winning the league again, or maybe bringing maybe not yet bringing the first Champions League to the club. And there is a lot of players that look at that sort of success and say, that's so much more than winning a league at Man City. And then if you're looking at stuff like Pep Guardiola leaving in 2025, you've got these players might start looking at it like, do we want to go to not all players? If we're talking like the
super team,
but if we're talking about like the top players of the world, if you were talking about an Mbappe or someone like that, that's different. They'll pick City any day of the week. But when you're talking to someone like Bruno Guimarães, I generally believe, he would pick Arsenal over Man City. I generally believe that.
You say that he's got a chance to do something incredible like win a league with Arsenal. He could go to City and be part of winning a 5p.
Yeah,
I still don't think that's as big.
Sorry, Giuseppe, let me just check. If you don't mind.
No.
For an individual player, listen, obviously a 5p is incredible, and as an achievement, it is, but there'll always be the same metric if Bruno goes there. It's not him that's done that. It's Pep Guardiola. They've got Hojlund. They've got this. If he joins Arsenal and we finally get over the line, he's now that final puzzle piece that got us over the line. He's a major factor in what's made us win the league.
I think what Giuseppe, I hear what you're saying, right? See, that becomes a personal thing to the play. Like that's a personal thing for a player.
Yes.
If a player just wants to win, if they just want to win and it's all about winning, they can easily just go to City, be part of the system. Don't worry about playing time. Sit on the bench. If Pep wants you on the bench for 16 games and only wants to play you like Riyad Mahrez for last 5 games of the season, do what you need to do, win and have that. If you just want to win, if you want to be able to say as a player personally, like, you know what, I went to this club when they were not winning, and it was because of me that. No, I'm just saying that's an individual thing. We don't know what Bruno Guimarães' mindset is, so I don't think he's going to pick a club based on his on anything more than what's best for his career, which is, am I going to get a lot of playing time? Am I going to be able to win first and foremost? And if that's the first thing, then that's City. Am I going to be able to win City? Yeah, okay, good. Let me go there first. am I going to get enough playing time? I think I might get more playing time with Arsenal than City, which is more important to me. What is the difference in my salary? What exactly am I going to get out of this? If winning is not the biggest thing, like having 20 trophies, even if all I have is 2 FA Cups and this, I'm satisfied with that as a player. Some players have that mentality. Then he would say, oh, let me go to Arsenal. And let me just go to a team where I get paid enough. I get to play because I love playing, not because I'm really just like, there are players who just love to play, who want to play all the time.
This is my rebuttal to that.
It's all a personal thing. So I just think it's a personal preference thing for a player. So
a lot of these top players that you're talking about, and this is the rebuttal I'll say to that, is they don't care who's at that team. They will be like, I'm going to play for that team. I am going to start.
I agree with you.
If it's Rodri, if it's Bernardo Silva, if it is Phil Foden, some people might say, even if it's Haaland, I don't care. I want to start. Those are the mentality of those kind of players that the likes of your Arsenal or your Man City would want to attract.
And I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, sometimes players make a move because they look. We've heard it many times. Someone like Cole Palmer, for example. Cole Palmer would have fitted into the City team perfectly, but what did he do? He forced the move. He forced the move because he knew he wasn't going to get playing time, and that was what was making the rounds in the media. The rounds was he wanted more time to play. He wasn't going to get enough playing time, and he chose to go to Chelsea. That was a team that is of young people being developed at the same time. But because he knew he was going to get more playing time, and look at him, he's like, some people bet on themselves. That's what I'm saying. That some players can bet on themselves and say, look, I don't mind making this move because I know I'm good enough to get this over the line. Now, that's a different type of mentality. I'm not saying that's Bruno's mentality. I'm just saying if City come and Arsenal come, it now depends on what the player wants preferentially. That's what I'm saying.
I love listening to this because you obviously, from an Arsenal point of view, I think that the point holds water. For some people, I think Dayo's spot on. It's personal. There are some players that will look at it and say, Arsenal play brilliant football. I want to go there and be part of a team that breaks a 20-year hoodoo, wins the first Champions League. It's a huge thing. There'll be some that will say, you know what? City is the sure bet. I'm going to go there because I can get those medals at this particular moment in time. But we look at it this way. As a Man United fan, we have sold that dream to a lot of people, being part of a rebuild and or a team that can break the hoodoo. Hasn't worked. Harry Kane this summer went to a team that, wouldn't it be ironic, right? If Man United win the FA Cup, and everybody said at the beginning of the season, why would he pick Man United over Bayern Munich? He's not going to win a trophy at Man United. He would definitely win one at Bayern Munich. And I know that's one season and it isn't a complete body of work. But that's why I think both theories hold water. City have got massive pull and they're hugely attractive. But I think if sold right, some players would prefer the Arsenal project. And Declan Rice is a prime example of that. He looked at it, he weighed it all up. He had the options either way, and he chose Arsenal. Now, only time's going to tell whether that's right. If he ends up when the time he's 32 with one Carabao Cup, no league titles, he might look back and go, Jesus Christ, I should have gone to City. I'd have been part of all of this history. And listen, I always wonder if I know he won a Premier League, but I always wonder if in his deepest, darkest moments, if Alan Shearer thinks that. If he'd have joined Man United instead of going back to Newcastle, that man would have a very different... He's got a very good English legacy, but that guy would have had a world legacy if he'd have joined Manchester United and scored all those goals in title-winning teams. So it's a really good debate.
Slightly different. It's slightly different with Declan Rice, though, because he's an Arsenal fan. So it's playing for the club that you've supported all your life. That is
but that's what I'm saying about player preference, though. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't know what club Bruno Guimarães... Like, Tottenham. You know, Kate. Hold on. Sorry, David. Sorry, Kate. It's funny you say that, though, because if Tottenham also came knocking and he chose Tottenham over... No, listen to this. And he chose Tottenham over City or Arsenal, and then we find out that he's a Tottenham fan, I will not be surprised because that's player preference. And that's all I'm saying. It's like, look, at the end of the day, I could choose to be on the best winning team and be part of something great and have this cabinet full of Champions League and 5 Peats and all that and have the badge on my jersey and tell my great grandkids, oh, look at what I did. Or I could be like, man, some of the best football I ever played in my entire life was with Arsenal. I didn't win a lot, but man, I remember this game where I took this guy. Like, people have different preferences, right? At the end of the day, it's about the club wanting to win. The club has to have the mentality to win and be able to get those players to win. Me, you know,
I think that kind of thing does it, for me. And when I've looked at how football has been since I was a kid until now, those kind of players that go for like loyalty is very few and far between. Like you had your Tottis, your Bonucci's, or even
but Ram, I don't think this is about. I don't think it's about loyalty. It's about what motivates you. And this is the thing. I'm not sitting here and saying Arsenal per se have more pull than City, but I am going to sit here. And by the way, the amount of transfer summers I've done on the terrace, this club won't sign anyone. There's no way this player would reject. I've seen every single club, good, bad, or indifferent, get rejected. Do you know, if you'd have said to people before the summer started that, rightly or wrongly, City fans are probably happy you did, that Maguire would reject City for Man United, you'd have gone no chance. But it happened. So I think to sit here and say that it can't is crazy. There's a few super chats I want to do here. We've got a very strong Brazilian connection in the team. Could be a pivotal point for him choosing Arsenal over City. It's a fair point. Oral Campbell says City could end up without a trophy this season. Very, 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 very unlikely. We're going to get onto that in a minute. Biggest draw Arsenal has is London. It's true. It's a great city. Kane did win a trophy, albeit a cannon. Kate, Declan Rice is actually a Chelsea fan.
Apparently so. So I apologise. I always thought he was Arsenal. So yeah, apologies. I'm getting lots of abuse. That means didn't know.
That means we have some pull. Arsenal got some pull. Declan chose us.
Hey, London pull.
This here says that Joe Linton is the only baller at Newcastle.
He's whack.
Nah,
Yo, Ram.
He's not
whack.
I'm not having this. I am not having this. We can find a lot better. Arsenal can find a lot better than John.
No, of course. But he's not whack. Like as soon as you said, you said whack, and I just thought about this kid in my high school that was always on the bench. And the one time we allowed him to play in the first team in a high school competition in semi-final, he scored against us. You play for us. How do you turn around and fire a shot at the goalkeeper saying you're passing back? Like that's whack.
Level, he's
like
whack.
Don't give him that kind. Nah, he's
Ten Hag got something to prove. Either that or he's gone. He definitely got something to prove. You're right about that. Which one of your attacks is better? The attackers is better than Nkunku? Tell.
None of them. Don't, Terry. None of them.
Well, I'm going to say this. I mean, we haven't seen enough of Nkunku yet in the Premier League for me to answer that question.
Yeah.
Did you see the balloon? Did you see the balloon?
The balloon celebration was amazing, but equally, we haven't seen enough of Nkunku to answer the question, and we also haven't seen these players for a couple of years now in a really good system. So put them both in a good system, and then we'll really find out. I fear City's transfers, the squad could deepen. Oh, it will deepen. It will deepen. Robert here says, yes, we are very talented, but the manager still should have done better with this youth. He's talking about Poch. Given our talent, we should have made top 4 easily. But the manager's been terrible.
You don't win anything with kids.
If the players could square the ball and finish basic chances, we would have beaten Wolves twice. We would have beaten Arsenal at home when we drew with them. We would have beaten United. We would have beaten Liverpool. I don't do so many games. Liverpool at home, the first game of the season. If we could finish, we would have beaten you 3-0 in the first half.
But we could all do that. But
my point is
if we had a penalty, then it'll be a different story.
If Fergie wouldn't have got old, do you know what I mean? We'd be killing it right now.
We still had Henry and Vieira.
Yeah, exactly.
Klopp weren't tired, bro. Come on.
This here from AMT says, true, Vieira was a scumbag. Remember how he pissed off Keane? Yeah, but Keane out scumbagged him. Keane made him scared. Yeah, I remember that game. That tunnel. I was actually watching it at a mate's house, 3 Arsenal fans and me. And I remember that they were going to get smashed. I can't believe he won that game. The best part of that game still, though, was John O'Shea chipping the ball in from outside the box.
Football was so much better back then. It was so much better back then with characters like Keane and Vieira. That's when football was brilliant.
That was, I feel like it was at its best then. Yeah. Speaking of this weekend, any shocks going to happen, or will City definitely break the record and do a 4-peat?
Congratulations to my oil cousins. Well done. 4 in a row. Yeah. Get in there.
Yeah.
You ain't got no oil money. Stop it.
No, but I don't want. No, I am those Spurs fans who are celebrating on Tuesday. I'm petty. And there are too many Arsenal fans that I know who annoy me. I don't know any City fans. I won't know any City fans for a while. I'm petty.
David, can I say something about this Arsenal fans being so annoying? Which we are, which a lot of Arsenal fans are annoying. But do we ever does anyone ever sit back and look at it like how everyone else is to Arsenal fans? And that you're asking
the
when we
reason
finally
no, I'm not having this. I'm not having this. Because the
what
reason
comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Because of if Arsenal fans just went, we've got a really good team and we play really good football. And you know what? On the balance of this season, you could argue we deserve to win the league title. I don't think anyone would have a go at you.
Giuseppe, hold on.
Let David finish, and then I'll go back to Giuseppe. Go on.
My point is, I open my WhatsApp. Yeah, I'm going to use the group chat as an example. I have 500 messages. Arteta's done this. Saka's done this, and Rice has done
Gabriel.
that. Ben White's done this, and Saliba's on this, and Gabriel. And there was one show I didn't even mention Gabriel. I didn't mention him. I was minding my business, and people were super chatting me saying, "Are you going to apologize to Gabriel? What for? What for? What? What am I going to do?" And then he went and bottled and made more mistakes. And do you know how happy I was? Me and Gabriel. Do you know how good Gabriel's been? I'm not ashamed to say it. Gabriel's been good this year, but there was, for some reason, people felt the need to come and attack me. Why? For what reason?
Giuseppe, I can attest to David's claim. I can attest.
Listen, for you personally, but what you said earlier about the way you have the two parallels, when one team gets it so much, they have to defend their team so much that they go over the top, is what I think we've now got to.
Giuseppe,
Arsenal fans. That
I'll come to you in a sec, though.
Now it's at the point where Arsenal fans get so much abuse, and like Saka, for example. Do a lot of Arsenal fans overrate Saka? Probably yes. But why? Because as soon as someone else plays good, like Foden or any of these guys, the first thing anyone says is he's better than Saka. He's better than Saka. He's better than Saka. So it's like a going circle of crap. And who started it, we don't know. But unless one calms down, the other won't calm down. But the problem for everyone else is right now is Arsenal look like they're at the cusp of actually they're going to win something big. So really, rival fans, I think, should start stumming a little bit about it and not going as ham on Arsenal, because now when we do win, something, it will be unbearable. And it's generally what's going to happen. And I don't agree with half of the fan base on Twitter, by the way. Like you said, these Gabriel with one of them schnoods on in the picture and all this, and they're just talking all the rubbish about Saka being better than Henry and this sort of rubbish that you read, of Havertz being Bergkamp and all this rubbish that you read. So you've got to dilute out that crap. But Arsenal are, and I think this season, the end of this season has proven it, we are the most hated club in England. So by default, I feel like it's everyone else. It can't just be that we're that bad as fans that everyone hates our club that much. Surely not.
Annoying. Just say
Ram.
Let me get a Dayo here. What you saying, Dayo? Thanks for waiting.
So David, I hear you on the whole Arsenal fans can be annoying and blah, blah, blah. You said in your group chat, like you'd wake up 500 messages. Oh, Saka did this. Gabriel did this. They're hyping up their own players and you're getting mad. They didn't come in and say Chelsea's a shit club. Chelsea's a this. Chelsea's a that. Like Arsenal fans are hyping up their players. We hype up our guys and you guys get mad. You get triggered because I wake up in the morning and put out a tweet that says, man, I rate my star boy Saka because of blah, blah, blah. Or I say, oh, you know what? I'm even though I haven't won a trophy in 20 years, I still have 13 league titles and nobody's caught up yet. Even though City has been winning. Like if I make it, that's the true fact. I may not have won it into the true fact is I haven't caught up to Manchester United or Liverpool. And I may never catch up to them. I don't know. But the fact is, for 20 years, I haven't won and nobody's caught up. Not Chelsea, not City, not anybody. So if I make a statement like that, praising my club, like, oh, Arsenal has 13, league titles, all of a sudden, and I'm like, why? The only people I have a problem with is Tottenham. That's the only club that I don't like. You see, the rest of you, you're like mosquitoes in the night, bzzz, in my ear. Tottenham, me and Tottenham, I cannot see them eye to eye. They have never won anything. They will never win anything, and they should not be able to speak. That's the truth about it. You know, the rest of you, I give you your respect. Liverpool, you've won, and you have more. Man United, you've won. Chelsea, in recent years, you have showed the winning mentality and you've won a lot of things. The problem is you now want to sit there and try and say, okay, we are better than you because we've won European trophies. I agree. You are better than me in Europe. But overall, I still have more trophies in my cabinet than you do. And that's something to be proud of. And it's going to take you years to make up the numbers and catch up to the amount of trophies that I have. That's all I'm saying. So if I'm bigging up my club based on what I have, I'm looking at my little iPhone X and saying it's the greatest, and you're pissed off because you have iPhone 15, and nobody's saying yours is greater than mine.
I get you. I do get you. I think there's a mixture of things here because I get what people say about Arsenal fans being annoying. I just don't find them as annoying as City fans. And generally, there's less City fans about, but City fans annoy me. And this isn't in a salty, horrible way. I'm talking about City fans I know. The way I see Hamza talk, you know, Big Steve, big up Big Steve. I was messaging Big Steve today, like the sort of singing songs and we never mess up. There's just I'm so desperate to see them fail because they're so good. And I understand that. You heard Dan Burns say it last night. He was wanting to beat Man United. Why? As a kid growing up, we were the best team. Therefore, his hatred for Man United goes above and beyond everybody else. For me, where I find it's weird with the Arsenal stuff is typically in I can't speak about the rest of the world because I've not lived there. In England, we've typically hated the best team. But in this circumstance, which is interesting, is we're hating on the team that isn't the best for the first time. And it's but I think social media, like we said earlier, plays a part. And I think it's because Spurs have always been in the mud, retrospect in one way, shape or form in the Premier League era, not winning very many trophies. Chelsea fell off into the mud. Man United have been in the mud for a long time. Liverpool got out of it, but maybe there's a little feeling that if Arsenal win something, that they're basically in the Premier League done what our manager did when he got us out the mud. I think there's that sort of green-eyed monster for one reason or another that's perpetuated people's dislike for Arsenal. And I think social media is kind of part of it, that no matter how bad any of us were doing in the last decade, Arsenal were the whipping boys. Arsenal were the team. It didn't matter how bad United were. Yeah, but look at Arsenal. We could all do it. And Spurs even got a taste of that for a while, where you could say, well, we're in Champions League finals and we're finishing above you and the power shift. We could all laugh at Arsenal. Now, none of us really can laugh at Arsenal. And I gave the example backstage earlier, and I'll give it again. Laughing at Arsenal not winning the league when you're a Chelsea, Man United or Spurs fan. I know anyone can give banter whenever they want. Everyone's free. But I liken it to this. If me and Giuseppe and David and Ram are all sitting there at the dance, no lady to dance with, no one to go to, we didn't arrive in the limo with anybody. Every woman we asked rejected us. And we're sitting there depressed and rejected. And then Dayo turns up. And his mum dropped him off. No date. Everybody said no to him. If he walks in and we all start going, ha, you're ugly, no one likes you, you can't get a girl. That's not banter because we're in the same position. That's the bit I find so strange.
Dayo didn't come with the boys. So therefore I have to laugh at him because
you know what? You know what? Dayo has just proven, and I like Dayo very much. So this is no disrespect to you, but this is why Arsenal fans are disliked when you come out with things like Tottenham have never won anything. We're one of the most successful clubs in English football. We've got 26 trophies. Yes, lately, Premier League era, we don't win anything. Maybe that's true, but football wasn't invented when you were born. It's been around a long, long time before then. And we was a very successful team, you know, and I hate that. Okay. This is the social media era. People don't know the history of other clubs, so they just come out with, but you never win anything. You've never won anything. If you go back and look at our history, we've got a fantastic history. And yeah, maybe like you could say, oh, well, you're living in the past, but you can't disrespect a club and say you've never won anything.
Kate, you heard me? No, Kate, you heard me? No, Ram, hold on. Kate, you heard me? The first thing I said before when I mentioned Tottenham, I said Tottenham is the only club I will always banter regardless. So that was banter talk. I know your history.
That's not banter.
I'll just okay. I was talking shit about your club, and I will talk shit about Tottenham, and I will talk shit about Tottenham. They are the only club I literally, honestly, like, regardless, like, if Tottenham wins today, if they win a treble today, I will still talk shit about Tottenham. Like, if you turn into a winning club and you start winning every time you guys finished above us every season, all my Tottenham fans and friends around me, I still talk shit to them. Like, that's how bad it is. Like that's it's just
on
the
Man
thing.
City. I want to get back to Man City and what they're going to do. They did this 4-peat, David. Where do they rank in terms of English footballing greats?
They're the best. Flat out. They're the best.
Man City,
like,
the best. That's it. Done.
Yeah, exactly. There's no conversation. They've won 4 in a row and they want to treble in the middle. Yeah.
115 is our only hope.
Bro, again, they haven't, I know they have 115 charges towards them. They haven't been convicted of anything. So I'm not.
That's why I'm saying it's our only hope. It's our only hope.
Okay, fine. If they get proven guilty of doing some dodgy stuff, by all means, that wipes out, their history, right? But they haven't been convicted of anything yet. So I'm going to speak about them like they're innocent for now, and then if they get proven guilty, we can have that conversation on the day. Yeah. But for now, they're the greatest, and it
talk
makes
about
sense they're the greatest because, again, they've got the best manager, probably bar one person in the history of football, right? And then they have one of the best squads ever assembled with some of the best footballers that have ever existed on this planet anyway. So, fair play to them. They've done really well. So there's not much to say. They're just the best.
Yeah, I understand that. Is there a counter argument though here? And I'm trying for this not to sound like a Man United fan that's worried about it, which of course I am. But obviously football's changed so much. You think about the Liverpool teams in the 70s and the 80s that had very similar winning records to this, with one or no subs on their bench, with very thin squads playing the same amount of games. There was more subs available in the 90s, in the noughties, but only 3 per game, and the benches were between 3 to 5 thick. Is it unfair to sort of discount the eras and the differences in the? I mean, there were some eras where there were great teams where goalkeepers couldn't even wear gloves, and the balls were about 3 times as heavy. Just as an example, is it potentially easier now with the best manager in the world and the best squad to be more dominant than maybe it was even 10, 15 years ago, with the difference, even just with being able to make 5 substitutions now in a game? Surely that helps teams now than it did 10, 15 years ago. So should those things be thrown in as an argument, or should it just be based on the achievements?
No, honestly, I don't think so, because each era had its own thing. Like, you can talk about this era having 5 subs and everything. Back in the 80s, you could pick up the ball if you passed it back to the goalkeeper. Yep. And there was a big thing when Liverpool won winning league titles, was that the only time they won a league title was when the back pass rule was a thing. And that has stood until very recently. So each era has its own thing. I know Fergie, when he was started as a Man United manager, there was a lot of stipulations where he had to have a certain amount of European players within his team. Sorry, players outside of England, let alone the UK, which was wild in itself. But each era has its own little thing, and you just got to respect what that team has done in that era. That's all I got to say, man. Even though it hurts me, you got to take into fact the eras anyway, because could this Man City play the way they played in an era where you were allowed to be more physical than you are now? They probably wouldn't be able to play the same way. Guardiola's tactics might not have worked as much when someone can clamp you and not even get carded, and it's not even actually a foul or stuff like this. I think to say it's hard to say if it's a better accomplishment than the best team or best accomplishment ever. Of course, the 4-peat is going to be stat-wise the best, and it probably won't ever get beaten if we're being honest. But then we never know. There could be something else that happens and the team dominates forever. But I think I like to say, and I do this with players as well, I think there gets to a point where there's a bracket of just teams that are on the same, that you have to put them on the same level, because you can't compare them. You can't compare them because they played in different eras. The same way you can't compare like Messi and Pele. You can't compare them because you don't know what Pele would have done with the technology and the boots and the training and everything that Messi had. Same way you don't know what Messi would have done back then with that maybe level of football or the way it was back then. So I think that I don't think you can say these guys are better than Man United. Like I said it last season when everyone said who's done the better treble. I said I don't think you can compare them. They're both just amazing accomplishments, and they're both now legendary accomplishments. So that's how I see it.
I think that's fair. Look, it's funny how I get called crying for asking questions. It's my job to stimulate conversation and questions. Jesus Christ. I think the era thing is twofold. I think the rules help with certain things. So I think it's easier to get 95 plus points now than it was 20 years ago. If you've got deeper squads because there's more money and more money, even forget more money in general, more money comparatively. The English clubs were never the richest clubs in the 90s and before that. The Italians and the Spanish had more. We're now as rich because of the TV money, right? So I think those types of records, like points totals, are slightly easier now, potentially, because you've got bigger squads. You can use 5 subs. That makes things a lot. Concussion, injury, all these things are in sport. However, when it comes to winning the leagues and setting records, yes, those rules are now in place, but everybody that City are competing against also has those rules. When the pass back rule existed, people go, Liverpool only won the league because they could pass back to their goalkeeper, but everybody could pass back to their goalkeeper. So things were similar in that way. One of the only rules that hurt English teams more than other nations was the 3+2 rule. So when you were only allowed a certain amount of foreign players in your team, but the Irish, Northern Irish, the Welsh, and the Scottish players were suddenly considered for the first time foreign. That really hurt the English sides in Europe for a period of time, because although we are an English England as a nation, our academies and our football has always been intertwined. The Scots and the English and the Welsh have always had a mixture. They've always mixed up a little bit. So that's where I look at a rule and go, that really hurt English teams in that era. What I will say you have to look at with eras, though, is who else you are up against. So, for instance, in the 90s, Eredivisie teams were amazing. French teams were amazing. German teams, when I say amazing, you're talking about 2 or 3 teams from each nation each year were looked at as good bets to win European trophies. So Ajax, always a good bet in the 90s to win. Juve, AC Milan, always great bets. Barca, Real Madrid, always great bets. In England, 2 or 3 teams, always good bets. Marseille, good bet. Does that exist now? Are we looking at an era now where we look at multiple teams from multiple nations and even multiple teams in England that at the beginning of the season, we're saying they can win the league? So I think you have to look at the overarching quality. So, for instance, when Klitschko was a heavyweight champion for the best part of a decade, no one in boxing looks at him as one of the greats in comparison to the Lewises and the Alis of this world, because the era he fought in, there were very few world-class heavyweights that he had to go up against. So the era you're in dictates how good you are. There could be someone that comes along in tennis who wins more than Djokovic over 20 years. But imagine he's the only one at that level. You're never going to put him above Djokovic, who was up against Federer, Nadal, and Andy Murray. So I think that element needs to be debated. But I think the rules and stuff, not so much. But that's just my take in terms of some will see it as me trying to defend my legends, and there is a part of that. But equally, I think it's important, and City fans won't get it today, but in 20 or 30 years' time, they're going to totally understand where I'm coming from when there's recency bias going on and people are saying X team are the best ever. They'll go, hang on a minute, there's all these differences and we had to go up against this, and so they will do it again one day themselves. So what is this? Boxing is fake money. That is the weirdest comment I've ever seen in my life. I don't even understand it. This super chat here says, David, stay petty. All fans are insufferable.
I will also say, when my team is winning, I am one of the worst fans to be.
Oh, he's the worst. He's the worst.
I will say that, but yeah.
AMT here, sorry, I'll come back to that one about Dayo in a second, says between 1992 and 2001, United won 7 out of 9 seasons with a treble in between. That's a record already. Yeah, we didn't do a 4-peat in that point, but yeah, over a 9-season period. I mean, it's that's why when people say it's a Farmers League now, I laugh, because over those 9 years, Man United won the same amount of leagues. They did a treble. I think the total trophy haul is very similar, but yet no one called it a Farmers League back then. It's
I loved watching United in them days. As a football fan, the 90s for me was the best. I don't think you can dispute that Man City are the best because of what they've done, regardless of eras. But for me, my favourite era, Arsenal were magnificent, which pained me, but I just loved watching the football. Man United were incredible. They're just different teams back
different
then.
Different vibe.
Yeah,
man.
completely.
Do you know what I think helps Man United in this argument as well? Is the rivalry they had with Arsenal.
Yeah,
the one thing City don't have, and I think is that kind of the rivalries a bit, and I'm not blaming City. They've just become a little bit tame. Do you know what I mean? Do you think about in the last 8-9 years, we've seen amazing football, brilliant records, but where's Pizzagate? Where's the fights between the managers? And I know some people say, "Oh, that's fuggish, Terry." For me, that's all part and parcel of the sport. For me, it's why when this week in boxing, what John Fury did was a disgrace, but it adds to the event. When Conor McGregor fights in a month, we all know a Conor McGregor fight week is a madness. And whether you like him or you hate him, it adds something to the sport. And that definitely hasn't existed in this era. This is from 16 out of 10. He says, Ram, I'm waiting for an apology. I told you for ages about the bums, Soboslai and Alexis Mack purple patch. Thank you, Honmin Sun, for saving the sport.
What apology? And I didn't know 4 or 5 months was a purple patch. I thought purple patches were a couple of games. But look, man, that's your opinion. Soboslai, look, I have to hold my hands up. I was a big fan of Soboslai, but look, I'm hoping he turns out good next season.
Floppy the flop. This here says, Dayo, you don't have to deal with Arsenal fans like Igal. You have no idea what they are like.
That is true. That is Dayo. You don't know what it's like.
The worst one in the group chat is Matt. And I don't mean it's horribly, Matt, but I'm going to say it now. I've held my breath for 5-6 months. The man posts things in there that it's like it's a group chat for everyone who's involved in the football terrace. We've got multiple, but this is the big one that everyone's in. And he'll post things like the renewal of a youth contract of a 15-year-old at Arsenal that no one in the group chat cares about. It's like, you don't need to post that. We don't care about that. You know what I mean?
This is not nice. This is not nice. I gotta defend my Matt. Here. No, this is like I know you don't care about it, but he's just popping up his team.
But
then he gets annoyed when we don't engage with him about it. Like, it's a bit like, I don't know what to say to it. Well done to him, but I don't care. It's just so funny. It's so funny. We ask questions like, guys, what do you make? He'll literally tag Chelsea fans going, what do you think of our new Arsenal kit? Of course they're going to say it's crap. And then he gets annoyed and says it's crap. Like, just don't say anything.
Dayo, this is the reason why we have 500 odd messages during work. This is why.
Listen, I'm not even going to lie. It's my group chat. Like, obviously,
put it on mute.
The terrace is not like, listen, I go into it and I go into it and flick back out of it and get rid of it. I ain't reading 500 messages. I'm a busy man. Some days I go in there and I just, you know, that thing of the grandpa from The Simpsons. I walk in, I take my hat off, I turn around, put my hat back on and walk out. I'm like, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Terry, Arsenal are putting my kids through college. Now I'm putting my children are being put through college by me, my friend. Equally, by the way, if Chelsea fans, I've still got a bigger percentage of Chelsea fans that watch the terrace compared to Arsenal, and I know that through internal polls that we do. It's just that Chelsea fans have all hidden away for the last year. In the last 3 or 4 match reactions that we've had, they've absolutely killed it. Why? Because Chelsea are coming back, according to many of them. But it's a football terrace, and it's why we're here. It's why we exist. They hate us because we are the favourites banter club. On the cusp of greatness, true rivals, Man United and Spurs, everyone else, meh, we winning the league on Sunday. Can you imagine if Arsenal do it on Sunday? I just can't see it. I just can't see it.
No, do you know what I would love? Do you know what I would love? City are losing. Arsenal go ahead. They all think they're going to do it. And then not City come back and win it. Arsenal just lose. That would be amazing.
That would be the worst. But the thing is, I don't think anyone's would write City off if they're losing the game, because after what we see, was it
two seasons ago?
When they were losing, and
you didn't need to bring that up.
That would always hurt more. To be fair, like if they were losing 2-0 and you were winning, and then they win, it's easier. I've Chelsea did it to us on the final day and the Aguero moment, but Chelsea were like 4-0 up at half time. That's so much nicer when you're like 30 seconds away from winning a league title and a goal goes in to stop it. The sinking feeling never leaves you. I still feel it now. Joshua here says, I disagree, Terry. Yes, they are the whipping boys, but United hate is far stronger than Arsenal hate. Oh, by the way, if and when Man United start to become successful again, Arsenal fans, it will pale into insignificance compared to what we will get. Which is part of the reason why I stand up for Arsenal. Is I just want to have an air of credibility as and when one day it happens to my team, because it will happen. Honestly, there's a reason the word Abu exists in football. Anybody but United. Nobody else has that about them, in my opinion. I believe that the Premier League and PGMOL have helped City keeping quiet from 2008 with financials to 2018 and the rest. Why didn't you pull them up then? So do I. So the reason I didn't pull them up earlier, Nav, is I didn't know about it. And it was leaked documents that led to the beginning of the investigation. So because there's no regulator, no one goes into football clubs and audits their books, essentially, which needs to come, in my opinion, because I think there's more than just City potentially doing some madness. Does anyone else really care about City? I do.
I don't.
Yeah, I do.
Bring in the 4, boys. Bring in the 4. Get in
Go
there.
away, David. My guy here again. So speaking of tennis, Terry, there's only one GOAT, and his name is Novak Djokovic. He's clear of that fraud Federer and that clay court merchant. Wait, listen, I'm not even. This is. Do you know what? I love that he's done that about tennis, right? Because when he says it about tennis, you realize how bad some football takes are just by hearing that. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just that fraud. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what are those? You know, the spoilers on Formula One cars, right? They're small now, aren't they? They can't be big like they used to be.
Spoilers.
You know the spoiler on the back of the Formula One cars? They're small now, right? They're called a wing, right?
Yeah.
It's like calling. I know you'd know the answer. You work for a Formula One team, but it's like calling Michael Schumacher you're just a 2-foot wing merchant because you had a longer wing.
They would call him a
Dumb.
traction merchant. Because like in the olden days, they had like traction control, so it kept. So
right. Well, there we go. I'm sure.
Like nowadays, they don't have it.
We only hear it in football, but you could probably apply it to any sport if you're being honest. Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. It's the closet. Sorry, the closet legit. Sorry. Kate's closet legit is bigger than my room.
This isn't my closet. This is my niece's, who's 19. This is her closet, trust me. And I'm in her dressing room, and there's makeup and stuff everywhere. My closet is tiny.
Is that her parents' house, or has she done that at 19 herself?
No, it's her parents' house.
Oh, I was going to say, Jesus Christ. I was going to say, well done to her. Well done. Look, I want to thank everybody that has tuned in today. Before we leave, shout out to our title sponsors, Match Bingo. One final weekend to play this game. But I'm not too sure what they're doing in the summer, but we will find out. But you've got one more weekend where you can have some fun, win some money, and of course, help donate to your favorite charities. Please scan the QR code. Go and get yourself signed up. You have to be over the age of 18 and residing in the UK, but it's an amazing, amazing game to play. There's QR codes above my head. But Giuseppe, David, Dayo, Ram, and Kate, absolutely love today's show. Honestly, one of the best I've ever done. To all of my viewers, you're amazing. To the super chatters, you're great. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.